guys, I am back today with episode number 3 in my 2015 Disney Pocket Page album. I am working on this two-page spread because I had a pretty cohesive look to both sides of it. I decided to do this two-page spread together as one, so it does take me a little bit longer for this page. And I wanted to use some of these chipboard elements that I got at a scrapbooking store quite some time ago, and I thought they were pretty fitting because of the princesses we met. So we went to, I think it was a lunch, I think, at the castle, and we were able to meet all the princesses. So I wanted to use these chipboard pieces that I've had in my stash for quite some time on this layout. So this is a perfect example of using the outside of the page protector as well as the inside cards in the page protector to decorate your album. So in this case, I am taking these chipboard pieces of the princesses, and they will actually get glued onto the outside of the page protector. So what you're seeing me do now here is just kind of lay them out so I know where they're going to go so that I can embellish the rest of the cards. Some of the other chipboard pieces that came in that little pack, besides the princesses, were the flowers that I put around the page and some of the other chipboard kind of sayings that I put around the page. And then in addition to those, I'm going to be using some of the die cuts and things from the Say Cheese kits as well. So you can see here I am adding in the like little stars and some of the gold pieces. So I had that wish there at the top left of the Jasmine photo. I added a star by Snow White, and I have the believe word up here. And I did do stitching all around most of these cards. I either used a black stitching or a white stitching depending on the card. And I just kind of decided what I thought would be a better contrast, and then that's what I ended up going with on the card. So you can see the blue cards have the blacks. I thought that would stand out more, and then the red cards have the white stitching. So I just wanted to mix it up a bit. So this is just a border strip that came from the 12 by 12 sticker sheet, and I'm just adding that to the top again just to kind of anchor some items here. I thought some of the things seemed a little floaty, so I wanted to make sure those were all kind of anchored down so they didn't look like they're floating around the page so much. So I'm just fussing around with some of the stitching. I had some extra thread hanging off, and now I'm looking through the 12 by 12 sticker sheet, trying to find out what I want to use here. I thought that the teacups would be perfect for this because we were at the castle and it just seems to go together with that theme. So I believe I add this teacup, and I may add another one. I can't quite remember, but we'll see here in a little bit. I'm just gluing down the chipboard pieces and any of the die cuts with my ATG gun. I find this is a pretty strong adhesive and it works pretty well, so I do like to use that. Here I'm going to do another one of those nesting strings, and I'm just going to put that under the teacup. So I'm going to peel that up a bit, excuse me, and add that under the teacup here. I just really super like how that texture looks, and I already have stitching around the layout, and I thought this went really well with the layout too. And it's pretty subtle. I'm using the white on the blue, so you don't see it a lot, but it does add just a little bit, and you can definitely see it in person more than you can on camera. So I'm just going to fuss with that a bit until I get it laid out the way I would like. And then I'm going to move on to my next cards. And I have to admit, even though this layout was pretty cohesive because I'm using some of the same color cards and embellishments, it did take me quite a bit of time to do this 12 by 12 two-page spread. I don't know, I just kind of fussed around with a lot, didn't really couldn't really decide on things. So you're going to see me kind of fussing around with this before I can really decide what I want to do. So like I said, here's another one of those teacups. I'm going to use the same string little nesting technique here on this one as well to kind of bring that across the page so you don't see just one element of that, but there's two. So I really think that it looks cute, and I'm just going to add some glue down as well because with the string there, the sticker doesn't stick super well. So I'm going to add a little bit of that liquid glue as well. And then I'm going to add to the cluster that little heart chipboard piece. I'm using my fine liner bottle. I just have some Scotch Tacky glue in that fine liner bottle, and it is perfect. You just got to remember to close it up all the time. If you don't, it does end up getting clogged, so you definitely close it up between uses. And I thought this heart going above the cup made it kind of look like steam coming up, and then you can see I needed to add a bit more of that glue. And I'll just hold it in place for a little bit, making sure everything's going to stay. Excuse me. I thought this ticket looked really cute and trying to figure out if it will layer up there nicely, and I thought it did. I thought the ticket went well since we were at a little dinner that we were invited to, so I thought the ticket would be perfect. I like this little real magic sticker here. It brings in the red from some of the other cards, and I think that's cute because it's pointing towards Ariel, and I think it's cute. I love Ariel's face. She's kind of got a, like a surprised look on her face, and my daughter is giving her a big hug, and I thought that was super cute. I'm going to add up this or add this to the layer here for the cluster. I like how the black comes across the page. I added that scallop on the left hand side, and then that black star kind of brings it across the page. These are pretty dark photos. The castle was kind of not dimly lighted, but it just wasn't real bright since we weren't outside. So some of the pictures do look a little darker. And I think that's maybe why I struggled with this too. A lot of the pages I did have been pretty light and airy because they were mostly taken outside. So these photos are a little bit darker. So and plus, I didn't use a lot of cards. I didn't use any cards that had any kind of embellishment already on there. I had to kind of make that all up myself. So you'll see here that I'm kind of trying to decorate all of these cards because really they're just background paper that I had in my stash. Now I'm going to spell something out on one of these cards. So you're going to see here in a second that after I get some of these other things laid down, I am going to spell something out, which we'll see here in a little bit. But first, I'm playing around with some of these other embellishments. I don't know if you could tell, on the top right photo, there was a face that kind of was distracting, so I put that flower over it, and you wouldn't even know that it was there anymore. I have used some of these, another one of these chipboard frames, and I wanted to get those on the page. Again, I struggled with those a little bit, so I wanted to make sure I got them on where I could, and it does take up a lot of visual space, which is nice because, like I said, these cards are not embellished, and I had to embellish them myself. That chipboard piece there, I'm just putting a little foam on the back of it because the frame is lifted up, so I want to make sure that the chipboard piece has something to be anchored to. And then I'm adding that gold star right there. Just using my liquid adhesive and then using my HEG gun interchangeably. Kind of depends on what the embellishment is. Sometimes if they're really tiny, I just use the liquid adhesive. It just works really well. And then if it's a bigger embellishment, I use the HEG gun. So now I am just using a stamp set to stamp the top of the tag. I thought this would be nice as a layered element. I believe I do punch a hole in the top of that tag and add some string. And then that tag, I think, now I'm not remembering exactly where I'm going to put it. So I guess we're going to be surprised together because I don't remember. Oh, that's right. I added up underneath that believe. Just needed some kind of anchoring because it was looking like it was floating a bit, or actually not above it. It's going to be below it. It'll be hanging down, and then that flower will be anchored on it. And yes, I do add some of that string. It's just some white string. I don't think it's anything fancy from what I remember. It might be just some twine. Or actually, no, it's some embroidery floss. It's just some white embroidery floss. And then I'm going to glue that down with my HEG gun, trim off the extra, and then trim off the tail if it's too long. And then I'm going to add the heart or star. I'm sorry, nope, not those things. It is a flower. And then use the fine liner bottle to put the believe down because it's so skinny. It just works better that way. So here I thought I would tie a knot at the end of this. I thought it would just look a little cuter, and then I'll trim off that extra that's hanging down with my scissors. And I'm going to glue it down here as well. Sometimes the string doesn't want to play nice, so I just kind of glue it in place so it doesn't move around. The wish I'm going to do at the top of the page and then trim it off. I like the circular elements a lot when they kind of come off the page and you trim it off. I don't know, it just seems to make it look a little more cohesive and not so floating. So I do like to use that kind of trick a lot. Here I'm going to be using some more stamping. I wanted to add something to the phrase this moment, so I'm going to be using that L Studio stamp set. And I think it says something like, oh, I think the stamp already says something about moments. So I'm just going to be using the front half of it. And then that way it just kind of goes with this, and it's a different font, so I thought that was fun. And it says, there's magic in this moment. So I thought that was perfect. So think about that when you're using your stamps. If you have a phrase on the stamp that doesn't quite work, you can selectively ink up part of the stamp and then add that to whatever you're trying to embellish. And I thought this worked pretty well because this moment phrase, it just kind of combined really nicely. So I like how that turned out. Adding a bit more here just to zhuzh it up a bit. so it doesn't look so plain. So I had another little chipboard flower and then the little star circle. And then I'm going to look around on the page and I think that's pretty much done. I'm not going to add any more to that. And then, like I said, those chipboard princesses will go on the outside of the page protector. So finally, I've moved on to another 12 by 12 spread. This will be the last spread, I believe. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, no, it's the last 12 by 12 spread in this particular video. After this, I'm going to do a 6 by 8 page with one of the princesses. So you'll see that after this page here. This one is photos just of us at Disney. What is it? Magic Kingdom. And I have a picture of the castle, and you know that typical iconic photo of the family with the castle in the background because it is beautiful, and why not? Here I am using something else that I haven't used yet on any of these pages, if I'm remembering correctly, is these flowers, and they're just those kind of paper flowers, and I thought they're really cute. I was at a crop and they were selling these and I wanted to add just something more fun to the layout that I hadn't added. So I'm just going to glue these down, and then on top or in the center of the flowers, I'm going to add some little rhinestones that I also got at the crop I was at. So for these, I do recommend using liquid glue. If you try to use the tape runner, because it's more of like almost like a homemade paper material, it just ends up pulling off the paper and it doesn't really add any adhesive. So I would definitely use liquid adhesive when you're putting down these flower elements. Now I'm going to go through the word strips, adding some here and there. I like that picture of my daughter with Walt Disney in the background, and she just is looking super cute. So I thought I'd add a little strip there and then add a strip at the bottom right hand corner of the photo with my mom and my daughter, and then the one with me and my daughter. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I try to add 3 elements of the same thing to these pages. But I have to say that as I've been doing these pocket pages, in this particular album, it wasn't always working to add the 3 elements. I try to add that because it just kind of is a visually appealing look to have it in 3 spots, but just didn't always work. And I was okay with that. I was trying not to stress too much about this. I knew it was a pretty hefty project to get through. Lots of photos. Disney just take a bazillion and 2 photos, especially since it's the first time we were there. So I was trying to keep the stuff pretty simple. So in some cases, I didn't end up using 3 elements of the same on a page, and that was okay. So I did show you how I did some stitching. I think I used no, I used white and black stitching this time. Sometimes I did a border around the card. Sometimes I just did it as a decorative element, like through the die cuts. So that's a good tip. If you're trying to add some texture, pull out your sewing machine and just sew on the cards. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't have to be a professional sewer. All you need to do is, sew a straight line. Even if you don't sew a straight line, what I do, sometimes I mess up. And what I will do, instead of just doing one single line all the way around, I'll do like multiple lines and I'll make them purposefully messy. So that way it looks like it was on purpose that you didn't have a straight line. Now I'm just going to add these little hearts. These are punched from a Martha Stewart punch, and now I'm working on that 6 by 8 photo that I was telling you guys about. And I didn't record all this, so I apologize, but all I did was I took one of the cards that my daughter got. It was her birthday while we were at Disney. And it was a card that some of the characters had signed, and I wanted to make sure I used this in my album. And I needed to find a way to attach it to the binder. So what I ended up doing was I added a black piece there on the left hand side and used my page protector as a guide, and then punched holes in it so that the this will just fit in the binder. So it won't be in a page protector or anything. And like I think I mentioned in another video, I do really like those different elements, the different sizes and stuff. I like the tactileness of some of these elements that are not in the page protector. So if you like that too, that's a good way to do that. Plus, I thought this photo was really cute. I think the Little Mermaid is kind of funny looking. She has these big, bright, wide eyes, and I just like how the photo looked with my daughter. So I'm just mounting that photo on some tissue paper, and I thought I would add this tissue paper as kind of a ruffle on here. So I'm just kind of bunching it up and sticking it down as I go, nothing too difficult. And I think I stitched through this if I remember correctly. Stitching through the glue HEG gun is not really always the best idea, but it ended up working okay, I think. Oh, maybe I didn't. You know what? I might not have because I did want to keep this as a card. So I think I ended up just trimming it off and I didn't end up stitching this time because I was worried that my sewing machine needle was going to get gunked up. So here I'm just kind of fussing with the fringe that I made, and then I'm going to add the photo of my daughter and Ariel here. I'm trying to figure out if I want to get the magic in. It's getting a little cut off, so I'm trying to decide, do I mind it getting cut off or do I want to cover it up? And I believe ultimately I keep it like this. Add that chipboard heart and some other embellishments, and then I call this one done. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're enjoying the series, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you, and if you want to know about other videos that are coming up on my channel, especially in this episode, make sure you hit the bell below, and then that will tell you if any videos have been posted. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this series. Definitely leave me comments below. I always want to know kind of what you guys are thinking. I don't want to post things that you don't want to watch. That would be silly. So make sure you guys are adding those comments below. So you can see here I'm just finishing this up with these hearts. I think they're cute. I'm just sprinkling them down the side. Oh, I did stitch. I lied. See, I did stitch. I'm not crazy. So that's what it looks like, and I want to thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.